Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with myself, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. Yes, this is a Bhagavatam show. The first time the Srimad Bhagavatam, the sacred literature of India, has been turned into a show. I guess everything's a show now. It's quite amazing, actually, isn't it, Kaustubha, with podcasts? Everybody gets a show. Like when we were young, there was a few shows. There was like the Johnny Carson show. There was Saturday Night Live. That was a show, right? There was a
Merv Griffin was there.
Merv Griffin, and then there's children's shows, Wonderama. You could just start your own. Do you remember Wonderama? You're old enough to remember that.
It rings a bell, but I don't remember it. Like but I do remember Zoom, right? Now we're using Zoom, but
I remember Zoom too. I can sing all the songs from Zoom if you really. I was raised on television. I know every jingle of every commercial. I know every things like Brady Bunch, Partridge Family, Gilligan's Island. I know them by heart. That was it was the time where it was considered healthy. Yeah, and my parents were like, it's great. They just watch TV and they're completely quiet. I'm trying to undo that from my kids. But yeah, so I can unabashedly a dented can. We use this word dented can a lot because sometimes when we travel to holy places in India, you meet these people that were from holy families, living holy lives, and they grew up holy, and now they're sadhus. Even young, ever meet like a young sadhu in India? It's quite impressive. It's almost like they are naturally drawn to spiritual activities. For them, even to get into Maya or illusion is it's almost like difficult. But I feel like in the West, we have the gift of being a little dented, a little broken. I like to use the word, because do you remember in the 80s, they used to I think there was a book, I'm okay, you're okay.
I do.
Stop beating yourself up. I'm okay. But it was like, I'm okay. I like the I'm not okay and you're not okay and that's okay. And I think that's sort of like an honest assessment of where we've gone in our culture. We're not okay. We're a little broken and that's okay. And in that brokenness, we can start to figure out who I really am, where I really want to go. And that's sort of like what we're dealing with. If you're new to all this, we study ancient books, but they're updated for very practical use. And it's not updated by us because we're not the sages. The sages are in the pages. The pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam speak about a revolution, and there is revolution in the air. I mean, you can't even turn on the news. Everybody's pointing the fingers at everybody. And the Bhagavatam does something very incredible. And this isn't new information. This is the ancient tradition of this very beautiful culture. It is the pointing the finger at ourselves. That transformation happens when I choose to transform. Powerful statement. And that's what our big Everest, our mountain we have to climb in this lifetime. Can I take what I got and transform it? We become like the alchemist. It's quite exciting. Welcome to our show. What a show. And we're all quarantined to boot. How's your quarantining going, Kaustubha?
Well, I'm pretty engaged here. It's like I got plenty to do. And
do you just stay in your apartment?
I've been going out to the park once a day.
But you're allowed in the park.
Okay. Yeah. But, I'm starting to hear about people that I know that have it now, I think it's going to start to hit, like New York City's that they say it's the epicenter of the whole thing. It's like I know some huge percentage of the cases in America.
You know somebody who has it.
I do. And I'm hearing more now, you know, and I have I think what's going to happen now is that as hopefully the testing becomes more widespread, but hopefully the testing will become more widespread. And at that point, we're going to start to hear about lots of people that have it, and the numbers are going to start to skyrocket, and everyone's going to start to freak out a little bit, I think. But, you know, now it's hitting home in the sense that I know people that have it, you know.
Yeah, that's hitting home.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in an interesting place historically. It's not just the economy is shut down globally. It's that there's also a disease spreading, a virus spreading, an unknown, mysterious thing floating around that makes you sort of fearful of your good friends. It makes me like, I'm burning through like dial soap and my hands are raw. I have to constantly put some oil on these hands because they're so raw from washing them. As soon as I wash them, I don't want to touch the towel. I'm ready to throw out all my towels. It's just like, it's getting almost super obsessed. I'm already obsessive compulsive. This is pushing me to new limits of like walking around. Don't touch me. Don't scared to touch my clothes. I want to boil everything.
And you're isolated out there, you know, it's like,
we're pretty isolated.
Yeah. I think you're going to be okay.
I think I'm not sweating it. There, you know, there's also these whole other thing, which I don't get into because I don't want, but it's very interesting to Google up germ theory and theories of it's not just getting germs, it's also making yourself an environment that doesn't, that if those germs come in contact with you, you're just Google up germ theory. You can get lost in that rabbit hole on the internet. But the idea was we spread germs. But another approach out there is that you make yourself a host by unclean hygiene. And unclean hygiene is all these yogic principles like diet, like your mind, like your immune system, etc. It's not just contacting any random person. But because
in other words, if I understand what you're saying is that if your lifestyle is healthy and clean, then you become resistant to these things. Is that your point? And that even if you're exposed to them,
then it doesn't bother you.
It doesn't take root. Yeah.
I think even Florence Nightingale believed in that.
Well, I think it makes sense, but in Ayurveda, there's like a lot of clarity in how one can do that. Any case, we're not medical experts.
We're not
Nor
medical
are we even Bhagavatam experts, but at least we can read from those that are.
Yes. And we're not Bhagavatam experts. I'm not. If you all want to know the sad truth here, because we're almost at 100 people today. I'm not expert at anything. That's the sad truth going on. I'm really not an expert at anything. I ever have one of those feelings like I should be homeless right now for what I got going in my life. I shouldn't even have a roof over my head, but somehow I'm here. So I'm like burning off some good karma that I have a nice family and a roof over my head. And,
but you know what it is, like you and I, like we didn't go to college, right?
Yes. And there's an extra sort of like shame in that, at least within my family lineage. I'm constantly I'm reminded that I didn't go to college.
By who?
That I dropped out.
Who reminds you?
My mother. She's 93. She'll never let me forget.
So my point is that our college was kind of our brahmachari years, our monk years, you know. That was our college.
It was our college.
We were studying something, and then like that's kind of like what our field is now. So,
I mean, I can make a great chapati.
Yep. Okay.
I can make a pretty good chapati. I can lead a kirtan. I'm not great, but I can lead a kirtan.
You can do it. That's the point.
What else can I do?
You can
worship my deities nicely. I like to do that. I'm not great at that either. I'm a train wreck. Oh, what am I going to do with my life?
Shall we dip?
We'll dip. Onward, dented cans. All right, so we are in Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 41. Yeah, this is a great verse. So we're going to start with these appreciations for the Bhagavatam. These are written in the first canto itself. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya, bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs will be established in the heart as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Milatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I'm not that good at Sanskrit either. I've started to realize. I should be better. I should be better at Sanskrit.
You want to practice a verse right now? Let's hear the Sanskrit to text 41.
Text 41, okay. My point is, I'm not good at it. Ata vishvesha vishvatam vishvamurti svakeshume sneha pasham imam chindi dridham pandusha rishnishu.
All right.
O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please, therefore, sever my tie of affection with my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. Now, I want to say, we're dealing with two worlds. We're dealing with the world of, this is my family, these are my kids, these are my loved ones, these are my relatives, these are my best friends. And then we're dealing with the spiritual world, where we're just ultimately all these people that come together in this world, they're not even mine. My connection is with divinity. The material world, we try to desperately find our identity by holding on to things. This is my house. This is my ethnicity. I'm an Italian American New Yorker, right? This is my car. This is what I drive. This is my motorcycle, right? This is my I'm my body shape. I'm my body size. I'm my features. I'm my bank balance. I'm my career. Some of us are struggling because we don't know what we're doing for our job, or we got laid off. And therefore, we're struggling with our identity. Sometimes when we say you got to do nothing but stay home, we struggle because our identity is locked up in our career choice. Sometimes we're parents and our kids grow up. And all of a sudden we're like, who am I without my kids? So the Bhagavatam is pushing us to this original identity. Kunti, who's the queen here, who's a liberated soul, and incredibly humble, incredibly straightforward in these prayers to Krishna, she's sharing that, Krishna, with all these calamities that have happened in my life, please sever this attachment, right? Like in the Yoga Sutras, right? What's that concept in the Yoga Sutras of this giving up the, come on, Kaustubha, help me out
Ishvara Pranadhan?
Now, before that.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Giving up what?
Giving up the concept that the body is me,
Well, I don't know about Yoga Sutras.
It's okay. Yeah, and the Yoga Sutra, I mean, it's all over the Vedas, but the idea of that we have to give up this concept that this is me. And therefore, and this is the underlying push, because all of us here, most of us aren't floating around in the spiritual world. We have one foot in, one foot out. That's understandable. I got to raise my kids. I can't be detached from my kids. My kids are, my kids are climbing down a well. I can't be like, whatever, I'm detached. No, get out of the well. My kids are climbing on the roof. I can't be detached. At the same time, I got to understand I've got to love in this world, but I can't possess. That's it, Alice. Thank you. Pratyahara. I've got to love in this world, but I can't possess. That is the tightrope we walk on in this world. Can I be connected to spirit? Love what's around me, but understand deeply, this house doesn't make me me. We might have to lose our house. A lot of us are confronting with, we might have to lose a lot of stuff that we thought was us, right? And then ultimately, the final one is, I have to lose my body someday. I have to lose my body someday. And that someday could be anytime. And in one sense, we want to give this to our kids without freaking them out. But I think to explain these things, especially when you explain them through these stories, and that's why cultures have these stories of this life and death and archetypes of good and evil. They're always there. But this is the little trick, and this is what I'm extracting from these verses that sound, on one level, this sounds like, why is she talking like this? Cut my affection to my kinsman. I remember when my wife was pregnant with their last baby, I was like, let's read the Bhagavatam. She was like 9 months pregnant. And I read her of this verse. Just randomly, I opened it and went to this verse. I think the last thing a pregnant lady wants to hear is, please sever my tie of affection with my kinsman. It's like the last thing you want to put on someone who's 9 months pregnant. But the idea is that we are in this world and we are meant to love in this world. And can I fully love without understanding I possess nobody here? That's super, super difficult. And if you're a parent, it's even more difficult. But the thing is, we either learn the lesson by choice, or we learn it when cruel nature starts cutting things away from us. And that's what happens in the material world. Truth happens, which is everything gets taken away from us. Our strength, our health, our beauty, our home, our hair, our tight skin, right? Sometimes our children, right? Our relatives, our parents, everything gets stripped away from us. And all we're left with is Krishna, or God, or the universe, whatever you want to call your higher power. Kaustubha, would you like to chime?
Okay, I'll chime.
What do you get out of this verse?
So, there's a dichotomy here, or I guess two things are being juxtaposed towards each other, or with each other. She speaks, so many times in these verses, I would imagine all the time, when Krishna is spoken of with a particular name, that it's not just randomly that Kunti is calling Krishna by certain names in this verse. She calls him Vishvesha, which means the Lord of the universe, the Isha, or the controller of the Vishva, or the universe. And she calls him Vishva-atma, right? Vishva-atma, the soul of the universe. And Vishva-murte, the personality of the universal form. So in 3 times, she refers to him as his relation to the entire universe. And then she mentions that I have these very limited kind of connections. You have these universal connections. I have these very limited connections. I'm connected to 2 families here. One is the Pandus and one is the Vrishnis, right? She's married into the Pandu family, and she comes from the Vrishni family. And the Vrishni family, Krishna is related to both of them. And right now, Krishna is about to leave the Pandavas and go to the
We need
Vrishnis.
a family tree up on we need a family tree up on our Discord group.
We can get one, yeah. But so Krishna's, when he leaves the Pandavas, it's bad for the Pandavas and good for the Vrishnis. When he leaves the Vrishnis, it's bad for the Vrishnis and good for the Pandavas. It's like she's been living in a world where these different, we say family in one sense, in her world, is even like political kind of world that she's been living in, where she's constantly under the pressure of that political situation. And all of her decisions in life are kind of based around this, based around the very tangible realities that are there, the day by day circumstances that are there. And in her heart, she's longing for something that's beyond that, right? She's longing for that eternal connection, to know him, not from a particular material viewpoint, but from the absolute viewpoint. And I liked what you were saying. You mentioned earlier that we're dealing with two worlds. And that's what's happening for the devotee, that we have a practical world that we're living in, that we may be a husband or a wife, we may be a father or a mother, we may have a particular other social responsibilities. Now, some forms of yoga would say that all of those temporary circumstances that you're in are illusion, and the goal of life is to let go of all of that. So cut it right now.
Right?
Yeah, just cut it. And wander off to the forest and deal with reality, not with all this distraction and illusion. And in the practices of bhakti yoga or karma yoga, the practices where one engages with their social duties, the idea is that you can cultivate the internal consciousness while operating externally. And so
you think that driving my child to youth soccer and watching Netflix is a distraction?
It can be, particularly if it's Bird Box.
The Bird Box. This is Bird Box. We're living Bird Box right
Living
now.
in the Bird Box. But I thought I would read a little something. I found something nice on this subject. You want to hear? It's from a mentor and dear friend of both of ours. Yeah, Satchidananda Swami.
Okay.
Right. You want to share just a quick word about Satchidananda Swami?
He is one sweet German Swami.
He is.
I met him in India when I first went to India in 1988. We bathed at Radha Kund together at midnight. The appearance of Radha Kund.
Bahulastami.
Yeah, it was a great day for me. And truthfully, that was a day that I decided, oh my God, India is such a magical place. I was with Damodar Swami, Bibi Govinda Maharaj, and Satchidananda Swami, and myself. And it was midnight, and there was just so many people there having kirtan and singing, and it was so festive, and it was midnight. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm brand new to everything. I'm thinking, there's a massive festival going on, and no one in the whole world knows about it. I was like, when I get older, I was trying to sing when I was telling you, when I get older, I want to take people to India to show them all that India has to offer. That was the day. It was like, sometimes you say a prayer in your head and you not even realize you're praying for it.
Yeah.
But this is one of those spiritual vortexes, Radha Kund, this place. And I said that prayer there. And I believe that's why I do pilgrimages now, because I had a prayer that day that I would love to take people here to show them the culture of India.
Look at that.
So I know Maharaj from there. But truthfully, he used to come to all our shows too, and when we play in Germany. And I know a lot of his students from Switzerland and Europe, and
he's one of those people that's I say this in the most complimentary way, but he's a little bit like a child. He's got that kind of.
Well, it's one of the symptoms sort of being a sadhu sadhu is sort of like got that childlikeness to them, like almost like a deep innocence of the material world.
Yeah, he's like that. And he's very much like this. We're talking now about a bhakti yogi having in one sense, two different lives. They're one, but they're two. And that is, I have my external duties and responsibilities in the world, and I take them seriously. And I see them in connection, and we'll get to that. But also there's something going on internally that's beyond all of this. And I have to contemplate that regularly, right? I have to contemplate that my body, my family, my community, my job, all of these things are temporary. They have, in the end, they have nothing to do with me, the true me that's beyond all this. And if I'm not regularly contemplating that, it will not sink in and become real and deep. And he's a person that focuses a lot on this internal life. He writes on it. He speaks on it well, I think, Most of us have trouble going there. He's a person that spends a lot of time there. So this is a little something that he wrote or spoke. You ready?
Hit me.
He said, did it ever occur to you that perhaps 98% of our time we are in illusion? This illusion comes about when we think, I am so-and-so, I am this body, and that is so-and-so many years old. Now it celebrates its birthday. When we believe the friends and guests who come congratulate us, yes, that's me. As long as one believes this, one has to remain in this material world. As Srila Prabhupada expresses in this text, the whole material world is working on the basis of I and mind. This is the root of attraction to the material world. If one is attracted by this root of illusory conceptions, I and mine, he will have to remain in this material world in different exalted or nasty positions. That's Prabhupada's phrase, right? We may be up, we may be down, but as long as we are just caught up in the temporary identity, we remain stuck. He says, most of our life is unfortunately spent in the identification with our physical body and our own concepts of who we are and who others are. Most of our life is not spent on knowing, I am the eternal servant of Srimati Radharani. I am serving Krishna. I'm not this body. I'm not this mind. I have nothing to do with the positioning of my soul in this present human existence. I have only so much to do with it in that my body has a brilliant opportunity to become free from illusion. My mind and body are not identical to me. My interests are different. And I refuse to be the servant of the illusory life based on wrong identifications. I do not want to be the servant of my body any longer. I wish to make this statement to my body and mind, he says. You are very welcome in my life, but you can help because you can help me render service. But please agree to be engaged by me, since my interest is to experience love of Radha and Krishna. So he's saying, okay, we can deal with the external, but we have to understand the true, we have to regularly contemplate the internal truth. Right? And you're familiar with this concept of bhutta suddhi, Raghu?
Yeah, the cleansing of the...
Huh?
Cleansing of the buddhi?
Yeah, the purification from the material elements. The bhutta refers to the material elements, and the shuddhi is like the purification of them. And it's a practice of yoga, or it's commonly done prior to meditation or prior to puja, that one goes through some sort of thought or prayer or ritual where they say, you know what, for the time that I'm dealing with right now, I'm going to box out a little bit of my time. And I'm going to let go of all my material responsibilities, all my material identification, and enter into a meditation where I'm living in that reality for some time, right? So he says, as long as one is not fixed in this understanding, one will live amongst the shadows only. Let's come out of the darkness and walk into the light. That happens when we learn the art of bhutta shuddhi. Bhutta shuddhi essentially means to become aware of our spiritual nature. If we want to serve Krishna, who's spiritual, we have to become spiritual. So he kind of wraps up this statement by saying, he says, often we're not, I'll read it. It's just a little bit more. He says, of course, as we go through life, we have to be practical. For example, when someone calls us by name, we might not want to reply, I'm not here. I'm practicing spiritual life. I'm not the body. I'm not the name you know.
I've tried that. It doesn't work well.
It doesn't work?
Doesn't work.
Or it may not be beneficial to reply, this is not me. When we have to sign our passport or get a visa with our legal name. For practical reasons, we must keep a foot in this world But our inner orientation, and this is an important point here, must be that I'm really a servant of Krishna. I'm the servant of Radharani, right? So we have to deal externally with things, but we have to maintain this inner orientation. There's an inner orientation that the Bhakti-yogi is meditating on. Now, there's a famous verse, Sarvo Pati Vinir Muktam Tat Parat Vena Nirmalam Hrishikena Hrishikesham Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. That we want to become Sarvo Pati Vinir Muktam, the upadis, the false designations, all these temporary things that we identify with. For Kunti, she's saying it's my family connection, right? That's been such an all-encompassing part of my external life. I want to know you free of all that. Sarvopati, Vinir Muktam, free from any of those external considerations. I desire for that. I want that. I aspire for that. And so she's praying for it.
Where did you read that from? And maybe you can put that up on the Patreon.
I just found it. It was actually from a I think it was a little lecture that he may have given when he was in Washington, D.C., and they posted it, the ISKCON of D.C. Temple posted it.
Maybe you could post that on our message board today.
I will post that for sure.
By the way, if you're new to our message board and our little obsessive compulsive chat rooms, what do you call these things now? Chat rooms, chat boards, the Discord board. Anyway, if you want to
figure out what it's called,
if you want to enter that universe, it's you could call it a distraction from Maya, because everyone's going in there posting videos, posting music, posting how to play the harmonium, posting recipes. But it's you get through that through our Patreon group. It's just patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. This thing is going, God forbid I put this phone down for a moment. There's like so many more messages, and there's all different boards that people communicate on. Anyway, the Patreon's one of those things where you contribute from your heart, whatever you like, to support us. We don't have any tiers. We don't have like first class, platinum, coach. It's just you give something to support what we're doing, and we appreciate it. Also, if you want to email us, just send us an email. Mara gets it. She goes through all the emails, puts them together, but we see them. It's wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Wisdomofthesages108@gmail. And also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. We want to stay in the conversation about, religion and spirituality, and we want to be in the conversation within the universe out there, the material universe, and so we can attract more people to the Bhagavatam. We just really feel like the Bhagavatam is a way that we can change the world, because we're applying it to ourselves, and we're excited if other people take that up too. That's our real passion. So I didn't even get to the purport yet, because
you know what I think we should do. The next purport is on the same topic, and it's just like I think it covers the whole thing really well.
Okay, let's dive in. This is a good verse also. Yeah. This is
there's a famous verse here. Very famous verse, right?
Well, sometimes Kaustubha and I will say a famous verse, which means the masters that have gone before us quote these verses when they're giving classes. So if you're one of these people that likes to become a little scholarly in your bhakti, it's the whole thing. People learn certain verses to memorize for their own benefit, as prayers, or as just sort of like nuggets of truth to bring with you in your life, or to quote, to give authority to what you're saying. So you're not just speaking. So you're not just speaking off the top of your head, but it's giving weight to your teachings as a yoga teacher, or even to your teachings as a philosopher. Because what I'm also, another point to this is, we're not just sharing our opinions, we're sharing the Bhagavatam. And we're yoga teachers, and therefore we're presenting yogic truths. Therefore, some people might hate the truths we're teaching, and some people might love them, but we're indemnified from both the praise and from the criticism. Why? Because they're not ours. Wisdom is not mine. You might hear something wise from my mouth. It's not mine. I'm not that wise, but I'm repeating something that is wise. So if you say, Raghunath, you're so wise, my answer is, no, I'm not. I'm just reading what they have to say. And if you say, Raghunath, you're such a jerk, I can't believe you said that, I'm just saying what they said. Therefore, I'm not putting my position in as the great master. I'm just a servant, and I'm repeating what I've heard. And if you don't like it, tough. That's where we are. So these are verses. These are verses that.
And this is a verse that Gore and Genevieve wrote a song about and recorded. You know that song?
My heart,
That's the one,
flows like a river, bam, 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 to the sea. It's a great song.
It is a nice song.
I didn't know it was from this verse though.
Yeah, it's from this verse.
But it just hit me when you said that. I actually love that song. That's one of the songs. There's certain songs that you will find me walking around the house just singing out loud privately, walking down the street. That's one of them. Everybody, someone, can you write that on the chat board, please?
Put that song up there.
That's a great song. Yes.
Maybe someone else can.
Okay.
I think it's called just Genevieve Harrison, Flows Like a River or something like that.
Yeah,
Heart
something
is
like
like a
that.
river. I think it's called Like a River to the Sea. I think is what it's called.
Like a river to the sea. Anyway, we'll just, yes.
Let's hear it.
O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Perfection of pure devotional service is attained when all attention is diverted towards the transcendental loving service of the Lord. To cut off the tie of all other affections does not mean complete negation of the finer elements, like affection for someone else. It's not possible. A living being, whoever he may be, must have this feeling of affection for others, because this is a symptom of life. The symptoms of life, such as desire, anger, hankerings, feelings of attraction, etc., cannot be annihilated. Only the objective has to be changed. How poignant is this?
Totally.
Desire cannot be negated, but in devotional service, the desire is changed only for the service of the Lord, in place of desire for sense gratification. The so-called affection for family, society, country, etc., consists of different phases of sense gratification. When this desire is changed for the satisfaction of the Lord, it is called devotional service. This was the name of our first shelter record, which was Perfection of Desire. So that idea came from purports like this, which means, and some philosophies believe like this, desire causes pain. And if you analyze your life, desire will cause pain in your life. I want that, I want that, I want that. I can't get that. I need to work harder to get that. I finally do get it, but I lose it. That happens a lot. You get something and you have to lose it. Or you get it, you finally get what you want, but it doesn't live up to what you thought it would be. Just like a kid on Christmas, he gets bored with a toy in 3 days. We do that with cars. We do that with property. We do as in our adult life. We realize that that's not going to make me whole. So the concept of desire, some philosophies say, get rid of desire. That ultimately will cause you pain. And here in Vedic teachings is that is what you are. You are a being that will desire. The question is, what will I desire? Will I desire things that fulfill me, that bring me higher, that connect me? Or will I desire things that keep me in bondage? Because it's not desire that keeps me in bondage. It's material desire that keeps me in bondage. It's not friendship that keeps me in bondage. It's my material friends. And some of us have friends that take us down quick. And you know what I'm talking about. You have friends that when you get around them, they take you down quick. It might be fun, but you're going down. And you know.
You're going down.
Then you're going down quick. And then you have friends that bring you up. that make you feel up, that make you feel strong, connected, whole. That's a real friend. That's a real friend. So then we have a workplace. We have a workplace. Is working bad? No. In Bhakti Yoga, we work. But how do you work? What do you do in your work? Does your workplace take you down? Is it a slippery slope? As soon as you get in there, you're like, what the hell am I doing here? And then you get caught up in the language in the workplace and the talking and the thoughts and the ambitions. Or does your workplace bring you up? These are things as a thinking individual we have to analyze. My workplace, my relationships, right? My friendships, the culture of my family. Is it keeping me an illusion, or is it bringing me higher, or is it bringing me down quick? So this is also what's bring out here.
You know what I think of sometimes when I think of the point that you're making?
What?
That it's not a question of destroying our desire, but it's a question of purifying that desire. And then your desires actually become helpful in yoga.
Right.
And but I think that story that Raghunath Swami tells in the Journey Home, where he's at the Ganges River, actually. He's at the Triveni, where the three rivers meet. And he swims across, he kind of puts his stuff down and swims across the river. And then he gets to the other side, and somehow, this is the kind of thing you would only see in cartoons and stuff, but he ends up caught in quicksand, and he's sinking into the quicksand.
I've never seen quicksand my entire life, except for cartoons and the story of Raghunath Swami. You're right.
Yeah. And so he's sinking, and it's burning hot day, and he's sinking into the quicksand. And the more that you fight the quicksand, the more that you sink into it. And so he's at a certain point, he realized, I'm going to die here in this quicksand. There's nobody around. I'm going to die. And somehow he manages to reach to some kind of branch or something like that, and very slowly managed to, get himself out of the quicksand. And then, he's pretty exhausted and everything. Now he's going to swim back to the other side. But the current in the Ganges can be so strong sometimes. And sometimes you can swim one way, but you try to go back and swim the other way, and you get
the Ganges. Yeah, the rivers are crazy because they have currents that sort of, they're not normal. They could like suck you under currents.
Yeah. So he's trying to swim across, and he realizes he's getting nowhere. And he can't get back to the shore, and he can't get to the other side. And he realized, I'm going to die again. It's like, if the quicksand doesn't get you, then the river's going to get you. And he's like, he's now prepared. Okay, this is it. I'm going down. And then he sees a person, and this is the point. And he sees a person on a boat at a distance. He's like, oh, thank God, boats come by, and he's waving to the boat. It's like, hey, help me, help me.
And they're waving back to him.
No, and what happens is the person on the boat just goes like, he kind of waves, but like he just kind of like waves him off, and then just ignores him. And he's like, what's he doing? Like, I'm going to die here. And then he realized that like that waving him off kind of signal, what he was telling him was, don't try to fight the current. Go with the current. Let it carry you downstream. And then at a certain point, that current will let go, and you'll be free. And so the way that we practice Bhakti Yoga, some yogas, for instance, like Jnana Yoga, would commonly be practiced in a way where you totally go against the current. Right? Where this is not my family. This is not my home. This is not my body. I deny it all. And I make a drastic cut. And that's a valid way to practice yoga, but not too many people are going to be successful at it. What to speak of us dented cans. But there's a way that we can.
I'm still trying to decide if you're a dented can.
I'm dented.
I'm sorry.
Why would you even have any question?
You're not in the dented.
Why would you have any question? I'm severely dented.
I'm just. No one look at Kaustubha right now. All right. Okay. Put your hand over Kaustubha's picture. Kaustubha's not dented. I just want you guys to know that privately. Kaustubha's not in the dented can family.
I'm in the dented. I'm
not
big
in
time
that
dented.
club.
I just had a little training in my life, but I'm totally dented. You look at me when I was 15, you'd see that guy's severely dented. So my point is this, is that we can accept family and family affection and things like music and things like, the arts and all these things. Our desires can be synthesized with our spiritual practice. And then those desires become transformed. And bhakti can be practiced like that. So just like we don't have to we don't have to say, I need to cut my affection for my family, but we need to see our family in relation to that eternal reality. And Prabhupada's going to get to that at the end of this commentary in a really powerful way. Why don't we read just the last paragraph here of this commentary?
Her affection for the Pandavas and the Vrishnis is not out of the range of devotional service, because the service of the Lord and the service of the devotees are identical. Sometimes service to the devotee is more valuable than service to the Lord. That's that famous verse from the Bhagavatam, that one who claims that Krishna is saying this, one who claims that they're my devotee are not my devotees. One who claims they're a devotee of my devotees, they're my devotees. That's a nice one. This tie of affection, Vrishni's, this tie of affection in terms of material relation is the relation of Maya, because the relations of the body or the mind are due to the influence of the external energy. Relations of the soul, established in relation with the Supreme Soul, are factual relations. When Kunti Devi wanted to cut off the family relation, she meant to cut off the relation of the skin. The skin relation is the cause of material bondage.
Now,
but
this
the
is
relation,
real big, this part right here.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This is
No, I just want to highlight these next few sentences. Are really hit the mark.
I'll speak like I'm highlighting it.
Okay.
The skin relation is the cause of material bondage, but the relation of the soul is the cause of freedom. This relation of the soul this relation of the soul to the soul can be established by the medium of the relation with the super soul. Seeing in the darkness is not seeing, but seeing in the light of the sun means to see the sun and everything else which was unseen in the darkness. Ooh, how nice. Yeah. That is the way of devotional service.
Okay. So what it's saying here, you will realize that a new character was brought into the relationship, and that was the Paramatma, right? Like there's myself, and then there's, say, my family member or my loved one. And then the natural material inclination is that I see that loved one separately from God, and I see them in terms of my own separate existence, and you could even say my own separate enjoyment. Now here Prabhupada brings in a third character. It becomes a love triangle. Now, right? You bring in the Paramatma, and you say that you can understand. You don't have to give up your affection for that person, but bring in the third element, the Paramatma, which is like bringing the sun in. And now when you see the sun, you could be in darkness, you don't see anything. But when the sunlight comes in, you see not only what's lit up, but you also see the sun itself. You see all three, right? So seeing in the darkness is not seeing, but seeing in the light of the sun means to see the sun and everything which was unseen in the darkness. When we bring God into the relationship, when we bring Paramatma into the relationship, then we realize Paramatma and our true relation with that other being all in one. Okay, so that's the idea here, is that we don't need to cut everything off, but we need to reconnect everything. And it was being mentioned early in the paragraph here that sometimes service to the devotee is more valuable than service to the Lord, because the devotees are so dear to the Lord. When we connect with them with love, Krishna appreciates that. And Krishna is even more pleased by that than the direct service. Now there's another verse in Bhagavatam spoken by Lord Shiva to Parvati. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param. That is saying that of all the different types of worship, aradhana, the worship of Vishnu is the highest worship. But then he goes on to say, but that, what is it? Something parataram devi tadiyanam samarpanam. But that actually, that the worship of Vishnu is the highest, but the worship of the devotee of Vishnu, that which is connected to Vishnu, tadiyanam means that which is connected, that's actually still higher. And so this is the way that when we meet these pure bhakti yogis, we see that they feel a sense of love, or they share a sense of love that's very deep and very profound. Whereas most of us struggle feeling, the range of our affection for people is very limited, right? There might be a couple people in our lives that we feel
I
special.
love a couple people, but really I
Yeah,
can't be bothered with most of them.
Yeah, and then we have it. Yeah, and then the relationships with most of them are shaky at best, and a lot of times, not good at all. But when we realize that connection that we have with God, and we see every other living being in connection, just like the sun, is connected, then we begin to see truth, and it expands. Like the range of our affection expands tremendously, and that's reality. But we won't get there. We'll get there and I really like this idea that how we conceive of our own practice in this world is Bhakti-yogis, because let's get real. Practically we got 100 people exactly right now listening live, and many more will listen to the recording, but all of us are in this world. None of us are the mountain, wandering yogis. We all have complicated situations in this world, complicated duties, complicated relationships that can very easily, will most likely keep us distracted, keep us stuck in the bodily conception, keep us unaware of the depth of our spiritual life and our spiritual connection. So what we do is we say, we're going to take that material connection, we're going to transform it. We're going to do all our duties in life in connection to God, realizing them in connection to God. And we're also going to set aside time in our life when we sit down to chant our japa, when we sit down to do our puja, when we sit down to enter into the kirtan. We're going to do a little bhutta shuddhi going into it.
A little bhutta shuddhi.
Today,
let's do a little bhutta shuddhi.
Yeah, we're going to say, and the bhutta shuddhi that's recommended for a lot of for Vaishnava puja is this verse from Sri Chaitanya, that I am not a
Mayor dasana das. Boom.
There you go. Nailed it. That let me pull it. Oh yeah. This is a verse spoken by Sri Chaitanya. He chanted this prayer when he was dancing in kirtan before the Rath Yatra cart, right? He said, I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a Kshatriya. Let me translate. I'm not like a holy teacher. I'm not a warrior, political leader. I'm not a business person. I'm not a laborer, nor am I a student monk or a householder or a retired person or a renunciate. These are the social orders that were prominent in the world that he was living in. These were the external material identifications. He's saying, I'm none of these things. I identify myself only as the servant of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. He is like an ocean of nectar, and he is the cause of universal transcendental bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. So this gopi bharta kamala yor dasa dasa anudas. This is who I really am. I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. That's eternal. That's beyond all the different identities that I pass through for a moment in this life or in the course of many lives. And so before we sit down to chant our japa, you chant this prayer and you meditate on it for a moment. Before you do your puja, or even you sit down to do kirtan, you think, let me let go right now for the next half hour or whatever it may be. Let me let go of all these extra, and let me absorb myself deeply in my eternal identity.
If you're new to this, even if you're not new to this, this is a massive statement. What do you call yourself? Mm-hmm. What have people called you, right? And what do you call yourself? And you introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Raghunath. I'm this. When we're really connected and really thoughtful, I'm a spirit soul and I'm here to serve the devotees of Lord Vishnu, or I'm here to serve God. I'm here to serve those who are devoted to their spiritual path. And to really let go of all other designations we've given ourselves, be it due to work, due to things that we have, due to our relationships, due to our country or where we're born. They're all secondary relationships, and they're all temporary relationships. Sometimes we get a relationship based on somebody we hate. They're an enemy-centered identity or a political-centered identity. And the Bhagavatam is cutting through all those things. Ultimately, you're a pure spirit soul. That's your identity. Start acting and thinking of yourself as that. And it's going to start to melt all these they're my friend, they're my enemies.
Mm.
And what Kunti is saying here, this love thing we're talking about, let me be focused, let my consciousness not be focused anywhere else. This is the practice of love. Love is not just like, I feel love. Love is a practice. And Kaustubha's really nice at explaining the details, the refined details of how to practice love in the same way you practice piano or violin or photography or handstands. It's all practicing. This bhakti yoga is the practice of love.
Nice. If you practice it with the right devotion over a long period of time and steadily, then it becomes firmly rooted. And that conception won't just be a foreign thing that I'm imposing on my mind, but it'll be the reality that uncovers itself.
Kaustubh.
Yeah, start the music. Crank it up.
Hey, today I'm giving a class for our Patreon members, Sweet Baby Krishna class this evening,
okay.
7 o'clock. Actually, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock?
8 o'clock tonight.
I'll announce that on Patreon as soon as we're done here then.
Thanks. 8 o'clock Eastern time. Tell stories about Krishna. Please join me. Patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. Did we get over 100 people? It says 100.
We had exactly 100. I wonder if we actually got that thing set up right, because it's been just at 100.
We're going to figure it out. Anyway, if you're listening to Apple Podcasts, thanks for joining us. Tell your friends. Let's all do this every day. Let's just do this every day. Connect with the Bhagavatam. We have 23 other hours to do whatever else we want. But for 1 hour a day, we get connected to the Bhagavatam. Thanks for bringing your family, your kids, your pets, your spouse. Some people are getting dragged to the Bhagavatam class by their loved ones. And if you're listening to on Zoom, do the practice. If you really want to make this thing work even more, give another little bit of time a day where you're chanting at least one round of the Maha Mantra on Malas. At least one round. If you're on Zoom, come on. And then get other people to join Zoom. I think we opened it up so we can have more people on Zoom. Thanks for everybody who joined us late on Zoom. Don, Kaylee, Prabhu, Mikhail Thodberg. Love to all the Italians who are going through all their stuff. We've got a lot of people from Italy listening. And love to anybody who's going through some struggle, some pinch right now. We're with you here as a community. And now we do the healthiest thing that we can do for our immune system. Does anybody know what it is? This is the healthiest thing I can do for my immune system, I'm convinced.